Alright, let's pick up where we left off and move on to extruding. This one is just fun. You can really go crazy with this tool. You can extrude faces outward or inward or anywhere in between, dividing and segmenting the box to smaller portions and manipulating these parts with the extrude tool. You can also boolean parts of it using the same method like I did to one of the corners. You can shear the other side of the box by using the previous method. Try to mix and match your tools to get more and more complicated and exciting shapes out of a simple box. As you can see here, we started with something really basic, and now we have a very complicated shape that would really be hard to draw right away without starting from a simple shape. We can also add other objects to it, like a cylinder, which is basically how any object in real life can be constructed from. Just a bunch of basic shapes with a couple of modifying tools can give you any complex shapes you want to draw. For the last part here, I just thought of turning this block into a Lego brick. It just looked like it, so I divided it into 8 equal parts and add a tiny cylinder to each rectangle. Then I clean up the lines and add some more depth to these cylinders. And just like that, we get a simple Lego brick. You can turn this whole complex shapes into one if you want, but this is what I mean when I said have fun with it. Don't stick to anything you see here. Use your own creativity to make these exercises fun for you. If you're not having fun, you are doing it wrong. Next, let's add more tools to what we have so far. So let's do some filleting, chamfering, and smoothing our object. Let's start with a simple box and make another crazy object out of it. I divide the box into 4 parts from the sides and 3 from the front. Next, I smooth out the edges by curving the corners from all sides. Now let's start cutting off some parts of the box to design it as a sci-fi portable device of some kind. So let's move the areas between the corners inward. Every time you finish with the stage of your drawing, you can hide the perspective lines and start a new layer, so you don't get too many lines that will end up confusing you. So let's add a hole in the center and add some depth to it. From the front, we can add a screen on a slope with the base underneath it. I'm not trying to design something here, just adding things as I move along. You can use some reference photos if you want to give yourself some ideas. Let's smooth the corners again. And now add the screen in the center of the flat face. Maybe we can design some keypad for it on the side. It's almost freehand now, without any technical drawing, just adding details here and there. You can't go wrong here, since all the perspective lines are around you to guide you where your lines should be. On the side, let's add some sort of pipes, by adding two cylinders on top of each other, connecting them from one side to the other. Smoothing up the edges a little bit here and there. I'm adding a little inclination on the bottom just to make the object more industrial. Okay, we can go on forever from here. So I have to stop myself here and just add the final line weight and the line quality. But do go on yourself and add as much complexity as you wish when you design your own props. Now let's do a quick demonstration on some of the smoothing techniques we talked about before. We have the fillet, the chamfer, recessed area, and smoothing up the corners. Each of these methods have been explained in the lessons before, but we can always practice on it a bit more to make sure we can do it over and over again. All these options can be used to get different results, like smoothing the corners only without affecting the edge, or smoothing the edge as a whole while recessing the area above it, or just simply smoothing the edges all around and make it curvy instead of a sharp angle. Next in line we have subdivisions. We did a lot of box subdivisions, but let's do more complex objects like this shape. We can start by dividing each unit by itself and extend it from one area to the other to hopefully get a similar division all around the shape. Once I get the areas divided, I can now clean up the lines and draw the final shape. And this is how it will look like with all the similar divisions. You can keep going and divide it into smaller and smaller parts if you want, or try different shapes and combination and see how it goes. Moving on to stacking, let's draw some random boxes and then stack other boxes in different ways. We can stack boxes on top of the box on the right all the way up. We can recess the area on the second box and stack a box that is a bit smaller on top of the bottom one. Then we can duplicate this combination of the two to the other side with the same dimension of the first one. So now we are stacking a group of boxes instead of just one. We can leave a space in between the boxes like we did before and duplicate that up. Finally, we can duplicate half the box to the side with a different depth, and then stack half of that as well, till we get to a very small box. We can do the opposite and stack a box that is double the size of the first one to the other side. Eventually it will look like the steps of a staircase. Try to get creative and imagine different scenarios using the techniques and methods we worked on before. The idea here is expanding your knowledge using the same tools I used, not the same examples I used. Let's clean up the lines and see how it goes. Alright, let's now move this figure around the scene. We have a building to the right, a hole to the left, and a suspended object to the top left. First, we find the center of the bottom of the building to the right, and then draw the perspective lines of the figure. Next, we connect the center of the bottom of the box with the horizontal lines toward the perspective lines of the figure. We copy the height of the figure in that depth toward the center, and then we find the center of the top of the building and move the figure vertically upward toward the center of the top face. And by that we get the figure in the correct size on top of that building. We do the exact same thing with the hole, but this time by finding the top of the hole first, and then we move the figure downward toward the bottom of the hole, and this way we get the figure standing in the hole. For the last part, which is the floating box, we need to know how tall it is on the ground. So to ground it, we can extend the edges all the way down. Okay, now how we would know where it will land on the ground? The back edge of the box hit exactly where the whole back edge is. So we know that this is where it will land. The other edge from the left also lands on the edge of the hole. The back right edge lands on the back edge of the hole, and the last edge doesn't land on any edge. But we already have 3 corners. So we can get the last edge by connecting all 3 to the vanishing point. Now to get the height, we simply move it from the one above it all the way down, since it's the same depth of field. Now that we have the box on the ground, we do what we did before for the building on the right and get the figure size for the box face on the ground. Now all you have to do is to find the center of the box top face and move the figure vertically upward. And this is what it looks like up there. Almost similar to the one in the hole, but in the opposite direction. So try different scenarios and situations where you can place your figure. Fill up a whole sheet with different people talking and sitting down, and add more details to your figures as you want. We did write letters in perspective before, but how about writing your own name in perspective? So let's do that. I first start with the main box for the whole wall. Random dimensions, but I know it's gonna be longer. So let's type my name here so I can see how wide every letter gonna be. I assign units for measurements to each letter. The S will be 3, the A will be 3, the L will be 3, the E will be 3, and the M will be 5 units in width, with 1 unit space in between the letters. You can change how wide or thin each letter will be depending on the font you want to use for your name. After that, I divide the bottom edge in 21 units to cover the whole wall. I then divide the bottom edge vertically to be able to add the letters next. As for the height, I will divide it into 5 equal parts. Now I have a grid on the front face that I can draw the letters on, starting with the S letter. I can draw the face of the letter knowing how many units it will take. Then I leave 1 unit in between and move on to the A, then the L, the E, and finally the M. Very simple. Now to draw the depth, we simply extend the face of the letters to the vanishing points and connect the back side of each letter. And there it is. This is my name done in perspective using 3D letters. I can add few values and highlights to make it look a little bit better. But you don't have to if you don't want to. And this is the final result. A really fun exercise to do. Try it and write your own name in 3D and see how it looks in 1-point perspective, 2-point perspective, and 3-point perspective. Maybe above the horizon line, below it, or try different combination and see how it looks. For this exercise, I want to apply everything we talked about so far in one example. This is basically prop design. Usually it will be more messy and less technical like this one, and much more in a freehand style, but I want you to start with a box and start designing a random prop. Either a sci-fi magic box, a terminal, or even a futuristic trash can would be interesting to draw. Try to use recessed areas, extruding, boolean, chamfering, and smoothing everywhere you want. Make the design look cool and functional at the same time. We will be talking more about that later on, but for now you can check reference images if you want and see if you can replicate it using everything we talked about in the previous lesson so far. Every part of this box is made by using the tools we talked about. It is a combination of all of them that result in great designs. I don't know exactly what it's supposed to be, but maybe it's an in-game loot box, which you have to unlock or hack maybe to be able to get the loot inside. So there will be locks, traps, terminals, dials, and so on. You can add levels of details on top of each other. And as you can see, I'm not drawing every single perspective line here. They are all done mentally, which is basically the end goal of technical drawing. You don't need to draw every perspective line, as long as you follow the general perspective lines in your mind and on your canvas. So any lines I want to draw has to eventually end up at the same vanishing point, just guesstimating its direction and angle instead of drawing each and every line. Once I finish up the design, I try to add more line weight and some hash line for values. After that, I copy it to a new layer and change its color. I can keep working on it, but it will do for now. Create your own or research some images and don't copy it, just try to take elements from each reference and apply it to your design and see how it goes. For this example, I'm going to try to create a decorative mold for this building using the sweep and loft method we talked about in the previous lessons. Here's an actual application to that method. So let's say we have this building and on the roof we have a nice decorative design. The design is simple. It's like steps that are equal in length and can be repeated by divisions. So to apply it to the roof, first I need to scale up the rooftop by its corners. So let's draw the diagonals and decide on one of them how thick we want the design to be. So let's draw the bounding rectangle for the design on one corner and then extend it all the way and mark where it hits on the extended diagonals. We only need 3 of them, since the back corner won't be seen from this angle. Now that I have the bounding rectangle on each corner, let's connect in between them. I have now the bounding box wrapping around the whole roof. So let's add the design now. The details are, as we said, a step design with equal parts. So let's divide in halves and then quarters and draw the design on the start of the decorative mold. Now let's draw it on the middle rectangle as it rotates, still using the same measurements. Now as you can see, it's rotating, so on the other side it will be mirrored to the other side because the mold is rotating around the building. So let's do the division and draw it backward. It will also rotate toward the back, but we won't see it. So let's connect between all the corners of the design all around. And this is basically it. This is the decorative mold done. Let's clean up the lines as the last step and draw it as a whole. I use thicker lines for the outside edges and thinner lines for the internal ones. And it's done. Looks really great. You can use any different design you want and any building shape you want, and really challenge yourself with different situations to draw decorative molds on different buildings. And this is it for this video. The next exercise video is gonna be a bit long, so I think we can stop this video here and move on with the next exercise in the next video. It's really an interesting one, where we finally see the power of moving, rotating, and scaling objects in perspective. I can't wait to tell you all about it in the next video. See you there. As always, if you like this video, feel free to leave a like. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section, and I will do my best to answer them as soon as possible. To stay notified for future lessons, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.